Yes, temperatures are, and the temperature is. And speaking of Tramore, good morning, sir. How are you getting on, Barry?
Good morning, Damien. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. How are you feeling this morning?
I'm not feeling too bad. Certainly a lot better than I was a few weeks ago, but yeah, we're on the mend and yeah, feeling quite good.
Okay, I'm really interested to hear your story. I know the News and Star has got a good report on you today, yourself and your wife Brenda. So it's Barry Sorensen, and you're living out in Tramore. Tell me, we're going to talk about the experience you've had in a little while. So if people want to text in, please do 083 333 975, or you can call Laura on 051 846 123. We hope everybody had a good weekend. Barry, you had a great weekend in the sense that you're, I suppose, appreciating all the simple things. And tell me a little bit about what happened first, please.
Well, myself and my wife contracted COVID-19. I first started showing the early symptoms, kind of a light tickly cough, just after St. Patrick's Day. And as I went back to work the day after St. Patrick's Day, I had a very light tickly cough, nothing major. As the week went on. And
where were you? Where are you working, by the way? Do you mind me asking?
I worked for Radius Technologies in Six Crossroads in Waterford.
Okay, so just describe this. Did you just feel it someday coming on you? Did you just start doing a little cough? How did it just start?
It was literally just a light tickly cough. You could probably get 2 or 3 of them throughout the year. You don't think much of it, apart from in the back of my mind, with all the news that was going on, we've begun social distancing and things like that. So we're obviously aware of the symptoms that are out there of the coronavirus. And when I started getting this light tickly cough, I was thinking, okay, it could be nothing. It might just be, a cold. This time of the year, March, you tend to get colds. The temperatures are up and down all the time. But it was aware of the back of my mind, and we were observing social distancing in the office, and obviously out in public if we were going shopping, whatever. But as the week went on, the cough got a little bit more, and then by the weekend I started getting sinus pains, and again I thought it was like a head cold. Again, it wasn't severe; it was just like a head cold, so you had kind of throbbing sinus and sore eyes type of thing, and the cough was progressively getting worse. We decided then I was going to work from home. I worked till Wednesday and Thursday. I was going to work from home, not take any chances, not put anybody else at risk. And by the weekend, the cough was particularly bad. The weekend was Mother's Day. And by Mother's Day, the cough was quite bad. And my wife started showing symptoms also as well. She was getting a bit of a cough, and she was having headaches too.
And when you were in the initial stages and getting the sinuses and the bit of the head cold, you could call it, was your wife Brenda, was she saying, yeah, this could be it, or what do you think, or like were you talking about it?
Oh, of course we were. We've been talking about it beforehand. Obviously, we have our kids at home as well. And we were saying what would happen if one of us gets it. Would be we have to choose a room that one person gets locked away in, or just stay away from the others. We have to say, okay, right, you're having the bathroom and that's it, or you have the ensuite, or whatever. So we were thinking what to do. But by the weekend of Mother's Day came, we were both showing symptoms, and I said, okay, well, we both have to stay in the room, kind of away from everybody else. But it wasn't too bad. But we've got kids in the house, and they've been interacting with us for a number of days. We still weren't really sick. We were it was still quite light at this stage.
Yeah.
And then on the Monday, the day after Mother's Day, then I had quite a high temperature, and at that point I said, alarm bells are going off. That was the one thing, one of the symptoms that hadn't occurred until then. And at that point, then I called the GP and had a chat to the GP over the phone, and the GP went through a whole list of questions and things. Yeah, I'm definitely showing signs of having COVID-19. That he's going to arrange a test, and that I should isolate in the house, do not leave the house, on which we agreed. And then the whole family should do the same thing as well. The family should be isolating to not go outside.
And your children? Yeah, tell me about your children. 22-year-old Ciara, is it?
We've got 4 kids. Yeah, the youngest is 10, Grace. Then we have Adam, who's 19, Ciara's 22, and our eldest son, Josh, is 23. He doesn't live at home with us, but he was home with us on Mother's Day, at the day things started going back. So he was in the line of fire on Mother's Day as well. Yeah. He lives in Waterford City, and he comes out to visit us from time to time. But he was out with us that day as well. So he got exposed on that day as well.
Okay.
None of the other kids were showing any symptoms at that stage, so we kept our distance. We weren't any hugs or physical contact. We were constantly cleaning down surfaces and observing the coughing etiquette and things like that to make sure we minimised any risk to everybody and to keep them away from each other as well as much as possible, much as humanly possible when you're all living in the same house.
Yeah. So after you talked to the GP, and Brenda, I presume at this stage is feeling worse as well. What did you do then? Did you actually go to hospital yourself? What happened next?
No, this is the Monday after Mother's Day, so we're still talking. We're still in kind of second half of March at this stage. Not a lot happened. We were waiting for test results. Brenda hadn't at that stage developed a fever, but she was still feeling unwell and coughing and had headaches until the Wednesday. On the Wednesday, then she had a very high fever, and we called the GP again, and the GP had to re-register me for a new test because they changed the criteria for testing at that stage. So that my previous request for a test was cancelled, and so we had re-registered on the Wednesday that we'd go for a test. My son, Adam, my 19-year-old Adam, also had a very high temperature as well and a sore throat. So the three of us were put forward for testing. That testing didn't happen until the Sunday afterwards, and that was in the drive-through centre in town. But in the meantime, I was still working from home. I was still able to, we were able to function. I wasn't bedridden or that sick at that stage. And Brenda was the same. Brenda's temperature was certainly a lot higher than mine, but my breathing, I'm asthmatic, so my breathing wasn't great. So I was using the inhaler a hell of a lot more than I normally would. I wouldn't use the inhaler that much at all, not at all during the summertime, and maybe 2 or 3 times a week would be normal for me during the winter. Where now I was using 3 or 4 times a day, maybe sometimes more.
And you're fairly healthy, Barry. Like, I was talking to you about this, and you are, as you say, slightly asthmatic, but you're a healthy man. There's no underlying symptoms or underlying causes, or that horrible phrase that people talk about, underlying causes. So you're a fine, fit, healthy man. Yeah. I'm fit. I try to keep fit. We're going to the gym, 3, 4 times a week. We go for walks every evening when the weather's good. I believe in Tramore is the best place in the world to go for a walk. Yeah. In the evenings, we try to keep it reasonably fit and active. We're not sports stars or anything, but we're active and we're fit and we're in good health. And then all of us, and so. Yeah. And then on the morning of Tuesday, March 31st, so this is 2 weeks ago today.
Yes.
You struggle.
So, we had the test on the Sunday and it was fine. On Monday, we were definitely feeling a lot worse on the Monday. On Sunday, we weren't so bad. We were able to drive into town, had the test in the test centre, came back home, and they say, maybe we're 10 days into this now. Hopefully, we're through the worst of it now. Don't feel as bad as I did on Saturday. But the Monday then I felt a lot worse, and Brenda did. So Brenda's fever was really high. She was way above 40 degrees, 40, 41, 41 and a half degrees most days, most evenings. And she was very weak and tired and struggled to get out of bed. I got up and I tried to start working from home on the Monday morning, but I just wasn't able to. So it was decided, I talked to workman and said it was going to take a few days to try and recover and get my strength back. And
then
so
the Tuesday,
went back to bed on the Monday afternoon, and then couldn't get out of bed for the rest of the day. Really, really struggled. But I had a really bad night Monday night, and the Tuesday morning I could barely see, little breathe. I was struggling for air, very lightheaded. I had terrible pains in my back. My kidneys felt like I'd been punched in the kidneys, and Brenda wasn't able to get out of bed as well. I tried to get up, and I said, we need to call the doctor. We need to call an ambulance. I can't function. I can't move. And we said to each other, okay, we'll try and get out of bed. I said, all right, I'm upstairs. I don't want the ambulance driver, the paramedics to have to try and carry me downstairs. So I edged down the stairs on my backside, got into the kitchen, and then everything just swirled around me, and I blacked out for a few seconds. I woke up gasping for air, couldn't breathe. I was literally clawing the walls. I was holding on. I felt like this is it. I can't get air. It felt like I was being suffocated, like somebody was physically smothering me. That there's no oxygen getting into the lungs. I closed my eyes. I kind of blacked out again, and I woke up, and everybody standing around me. My wife somehow managed to get downstairs. She was sitting on a chair in the kitchen. We have a sofa in the kitchen. I was lying down on that, gasping for air. My wife was almost purple at this stage because her oxygen levels were very low, and her temperature was through the roof. My kids were standing there crying their eyes out and on the phone to the ambulance. One was on the phone to the ambulance, and someone else was on the phone to the GP, just trying to get about what to do, looking for what to do. I was using the inhaler just constantly, like it was an oxygen mask, just trying to get air inside my lungs and trying to get the lungs to open up. And eventually they did, and my breathing started. It was like, if you can imagine somebody hyperventilating, just breathing so hard and so shallow and so fast. Eventually, it kind of calmed down a little bit when I was on the phone to the GP. He was talking me through breathing exercises, trying to get me to start breathing again, get some air into my lungs. Excuse me. So when that happened, then eventually the paramedics came.
Can I just before the ambulance arrive?
Yeah.
Is it possible to remember what's going through your mind? Like, to try and get a breath, people just don't even think about breathing, obviously, because now some people that are asthmatic, yes, the breathing techniques and mechanisms come in, but this idea of not being able to get oxygen into your body, what's going through your mind?
It's terrifying. I've never experienced it. I've been asthmatic since I was 9 or 10 years old, and I've never had a seizure. I've never been hospitalised with asthma, and I've been wheezy. I've been struggling for breath at certain times. Times in my life, particularly when I was younger, but never experienced anything. So it was terrifying in two fronts. Firstly, I was terrified not getting there, but when I was up and I was looking up, and when you see your children standing around and they're terrified, they're crying, and they're looking at you, and I'm thinking, I don't know what's going to happen. Am I going to get through this? And then I'm also thinking, the kids are watching this happening. How scared are they? So I was terrified for them, being terrified for me at the same time. So there was a lot going on. There's a lot of emotion as well as fear and panic and all these things going through your head at the same time, as well as trying to grasp for air. So the feeling of I can't even describe it. It's literally, I don't know, it's like you're in a vacuum, or I don't know, if you put your head under the pillow and you can't grasp air, or put something over your mouth and you're trying to breathe and you can't. That's what it felt like physically. But emotionally and mentally, watching your kids crying their eyes out, a 10-year-old and his 22-year-old, my 22-year-old daughter Kira, who was on the phone to the ambulance, and she's crying, and my son Adam's didn't know what to do. He's looking after his mother at the same time. So yeah, the two of us were in a bad way, and our kids were witnessing all of this. So that was terrifying.
I want to give you enough time on this, because the reason you've come on air this morning to tell this story, and it's a very, very important story, is to tell people how important it is to isolate and to stay safe. So,
sure.
Barry, just stay with me if you wouldn't mind, and I don't know if Brenda's there. I'm just going to take a few quick ads, and maybe Brenda will talk to us straight afterwards, and I'll come straight back to you. But just stay on air there, okay?
All right, thank you.
Hold on there, Barry. Hold on there. Thank you. Now, are you still there, Barry?
I am, yeah.
Grand. Does Brenda want to say a little word? I know she's a little bit shy.
Yeah, she's here beside me now.
Put her on to me there for a second, will you? Thanks.
Hello.
Hiya, Brenda. How you doing?
Hi, Damien.
How are you?
I'm okay, yeah.
Barry was just describing, obviously you were listening to him there, describing that moment, and you were very, very unwell at that stage, and your children were ringing for the ambulance. What do you remember about it?
I just remember crying on the phone to the GP as I struggled to get down the stairs, and I saw Barry, and because I couldn't get to him fast enough, I was starting to panic, because I knew he couldn't breathe, and he just kept saying, I can't get air. And because I was so sick, I couldn't get there fast enough, so I was panicking, and the more I was panicking, the more I couldn't breathe. So it was very, very scary. It was probably about 10 minutes, but it felt like forever in that time.
And do you have asthma yourself? No,
I don't have any asthma, so my lungs actually will be quite good.
Okay.
For me, I had more when I got to hospital. It was underlying issues. I had secondary infections.
So, how long did it take? Can you remember, for the ambulance to arrive?
Probably about 12, 15 minutes.
12, 15 minutes.
Yeah, and both ambulances came because they had to have two separate ones.
Two separate ambulances. So, again, just to try and get listeners to picture this, Mammy and Daddy of 4 lovely children are there totally incapacitated in a way, and 2 ambulances arrive to take you away to hospital because both of you have got COVID. Yeah,
it was very scary. The kids had to go in separate rooms, obviously, because the ambulance, the paramedics had to dress in their gear, and that would have been the first time, was Grace would have come in contact, and she's a 10-year-old, with the PPE, with their gloves and their masks and stuff. So it was quite scary for her to be locked away, and we couldn't say goodbye to them when we were taken. I was taken first because I could walk, but Barry had to be taken in a chair then at that stage. So it was quite scary. And then Kira had to bring out the inhalers, and she couldn't come close obviously because she wasn't in a mask, and they were, so she had to throw the inhalers, and she found that very surreal.
And did you, were you crying yourself? Did you say goodbye to them, or what happened?
Yeah, we were all quite upset. I just waved and told them we were going to be okay. And then as I said, we went in separate ambulances, so the paramedics were absolutely wonderful at keeping us calm as they could. I was just putting us obviously in separate ambulances, and then my ambulance went down the end of the road and waited for Barry's to go, and then we just followed each other in. So I could see his ambulance, which was good because you had to sit up for your breathing. So I could see his ambulance, which was great. But
you could see it out the back window, could you?
Yeah.
And you were on oxygen at this stage, were you?
No, I wasn't on oxygen because I didn't need it. They just had me monitored.
And the paramedics, again, this is the phenomenal work that they've been doing, not just now, but all through their lives. But they're just amazing, those teams, aren't they?
Unbelievable. I mean, to the point of getting us to the hospital, sitting with us and then bringing us through. And when you come to the hospital, all the corridors have to be cleared. And everyone has to stand back. But as you're coming through, it's very surreal. It's a very surreal feeling as you're walking through the corridors and everyone is behind their screens and just you on your own with the paramedic brought through. So it's very safe for everybody else. But you do feel really, really odd. But then they sit with you and stay with you for as long as they can to make sure that you're okay. And then they have to go out and clear out the whole ambulance and wash it down. So it's a big process for them. It isn't just a quick shout, I suppose. It's a very long process for them.
And you had to be isolated, obviously, in the hospital itself. And the care, I know, that yourself and Barry got, I'll talk to Barry about this in a minute, but I know both of you want to praise the care teams that you got.
They were absolutely amazing, from the A&E department. Now, I was sent home originally the first day because they felt maybe my body was coping better than Barry's. So they kept Barry and sent me home. But when I was home, I was very, very sick. And I had 3 really bad days. And when I was to go to the GP for a respiratory exam, but I couldn't make it in there. And when the GP rang me, my temperature was 40.6. So she called an ambulance and I was taken back to hospital. And that's when I was found to have secondary infections, and I was kept in then for a week after that.
And the secondary infections showed lung damage?
I had blood. I had a blood infection and I had clots in my lungs.
Right. And were you worried, or were you just saying, okay, I'm confident that they know what's wrong with me, they're going to be able to deal with this? There was one point where I did say that I thought I was going to die. And at that stage I did say, either take me or save me. There was more, my mother had passed a few years ago, and we'd be praying to everybody and anybody, and I just said to her at that stage, take me or save me, because I couldn't take it anymore, the pain and the feeling. It was just one day, it was a hard 4 hours of fever. It was 41 degrees and I just couldn't get it down and I couldn't breathe, and I didn't feel at that stage I had any help. It was more, my daughter was trying to look after me and I knew that she was crying and she wasn't sleeping because she was afraid that something was going to happen to me, and Barry was in hospital and I didn't know what was happening to him. And the doctors and friends were ringing me every day, but I just didn't think I was getting across to them how sick maybe I was. Until I suppose it clicked with them how sick I was, and they put me back to hospital. Until that point, I did think maybe I was going to die. But then when I got back to the hospital, they were absolutely just unbelievable. I couldn't even put into words how good they were at looking after us. And even knowing that Barry was on the same ward, and obviously I hadn't seen them and couldn't see him, but how they made sure that we were able to communicate with each other was brilliant. So even one day I had text Barry and he texted me and I hadn't texted him back because I was busy doing something, and the nurse came back over and said to me, text your husband. So they were very good. The bravery of your children, Brenda, and nobody wants to ever go through what you've gone through, and this idea that you'd have to face death. Yeah, no, it is. It's very scary, and in reality, we probably weren't even near death. But I think of all the stories you hear in the media, you just think when you have it and you get to that stage where you're not healing, you just do panic and you think to yourself, well, this must be what it is. This must be what they're talking about. This is the end. This is where people lose their lives to it. But in reality, we were young, we were healthy, we were strong, and then we had all that care. So, Waterford is just amazing out there. It really is, and the facilities that we have out there is just second to none. It really is. And I'll talk to Barry about this in a second as well, but just finally with yourself, Brenda, just to remind people, the coronavirus there's no cure for it. And there's, in a way, there is so much that the hospital staff can do, but effectively they can't do anything. They can put you on a ventilator and help you to breathe, but effectively it's your own body trying to fight this and your own body trying to breathe and get through this. So there's no drugs they can give you. There's nothing else. No. It's just literally you against this horrible, horrible disease.
Absolutely. I mean, all they can give you really is paracetamol, something for nausea. That's literally it. Your oxygen and antibiotics. They do actually put you on high super antibiotics, which I know goes against the whole viral thing in antibiotics, but they're just trying to deal with underlying infections that may set in because your body, like pneumonia and stuff, because your body is so weak. I mean, we would find things like our bones are very sore now. Things that you wouldn't realise, your kidneys, your organs just get very sore. So there's things like that they're trying to prevent maybe bacterial infection setting in. And my blood, because I had a blood infection, my blood count, a lot of my markers in the blood were very high for infection. So they were just trying to keep them under control. Or because you weren't eating, because your sense of taste and smell are gone, you've no desire for any food. So the likes of phosphates and potassium levels in your blood would drop. So again, because you were in hospital, they were able to see that they were wrong and they were able to correct those. Whereas if you're at home, maybe you wouldn't know they were wrong. You just wouldn't be eating any food. So, yeah. So there is things like that they can do for you, certainly. But yes, absolutely, your body has to fight it. So, yeah, you have to be strong.
I know
definitely have to be strong.
I know it's we're in a lockdown or restriction phase, Brenda. I know a lot of your family was in touch with some of your in-laws and brothers and sisters over the weekend, and they're so happy and so proud and so delighted. How do you feel now, and what advice would you have for anybody that's out there? Because a lot of people are struggling with this idea of staying in. Like, just listening to your story, and that's the reason we're telling your story this morning, and you're telling us, because we just want to remind people that this is so real. It is.
We feel absolutely blessed. I'm self-employed, so obviously I'm struggling when it comes to that, but at the moment is the least thing on my mind, just to be able to be around our kids, to know that they're safe, that we're safe, to be able to stay in is a luxury for us now, to look out. Even when we first came home, to sit in the back garden and feel the air on our skin after sitting in a room for a week, just looking out, and literally your meals are just passed in. It's almost like a prison, passed in the door, and you're told to stand back and stay away from everybody, and they just wave in a little window. You know, that isolation is actually pure isolation. It isn't just like if you're at home maybe. So to be alive, to look out at that air, to feel it on your skin, life is different now, and it's different for everybody, I think. And I think that's what we're all going to learn from this, if nothing else. I mean, to see Barry after all that time, that's the longest we've ever been apart, was just amazing. And then to come home and see my children and the smile on their face and the relief on their face, just to know that we were alive, was just amazing. So I think we'll all just take so much more out of this than we possibly ever thought. It was actually, isolation is just a word at the end of the day. I mean, none of us are really isolated. And you look out and you feel the air on your skin. And you get joy in the smallest things in life. So, it's wonderful.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of people texting in and they're quite emotional about this. Brenda, you mind yourself. Can you put me back to Barry there for a second, please?
Thanks.
Take care.
Damien.
God bless, Brenda. Thank you.
Hi, Damien.
Hiya. Good. She's a good way with words there, Barry. Better than you, I'd say.
I'm well enough to this first side of the story.
Stop. And there's a lot of people texting in, talking about the emotion of it and the importance of telling the story. You made it, and you survived, and your lungs and your body and the treatment you got there. How long were you in hospital for, Barry?
7 days. I was in hospital for 7 days. Now we still have a long road to go. We're still quite weak. Simple tasks like even loading the dishwasher, unloading the dishwasher. These is exhausted and fatigued. You get lightheaded. Excuse me. I was still croaky. Still have a cough. The hospital are monitoring us. Brenda has an electronic device that she has to put on her finger, monitors her blood oxygen, her pulse. It's the new thing that came out. I think I only read about it yesterday, but Brenda's had it, came home with that. It connects to an app on her phone. It sends data to the hospital, and if her stats drop down low, she gets a call within 20 minutes, half an hour from a nurse on the ward and asks a load of questions. So they're keeping track with us. We have appointments laid out ahead of us over the next few months for chest x-rays and follow-up appointments, because they don't know, because it's a new virus, they don't know the long-term damage is going to be done on our lungs, if any at all, and how long it will take our lungs to get back to the way they were beforehand. But listen, we're on the road to recovery. The fact that we're home, we're with our family, as Brenda, and we'll be able to see the kids' faces every day and have the luxury of spending the time. We know how lucky we are. We know not everybody out there has that pleasure and that privilege to be able to spend that much time with their family. There's people isolated, properly alone out there and looking to see where we grandkids or their own kids and not having a lot of contact. We're blessed to be in the house with our family around us and to be able to go out to the back garden. That's all we can do. We're not allowed out further than the back garden for the next couple of weeks. So, but the weather's been great, and it's a privilege to be able to just go out and sit there in the fresh air and just have a chat and a laugh with the kids and each other. And we're sitting around chatting around at the dinner table a lot more than we were beforehand. We're spending more time together as a family than we did beforehand. So these are all really, really good things, and really, you appreciate the privilege of having those things in front of you.
And the importance of, I suppose, children as well, maintaining that social distance, that they don't bring COVID into a house, that they mightn't get it, but they can be symptomatic, and you can get it and others can get it, and that just reinforces that point.
Absolutely. Our kids have been in isolation for 4 weeks, but I know people out there are struggling with the lockdown, for want of a better word, that's going on across the country at the moment, and it is difficult and it is frustrating, and trying to keep the kids occupied and keep each other occupied, and just missing the normal things, the simple things in life, going shopping or going to work or whatever it might be. But what's the alternative? The lockdown is there for a reason. I promise you, nobody wants to be in the position that we were in 2 weeks ago. You don't want your family members, your kids, your parents, your grandparents to be in that position where you're fearing for your life, where you're terrified. You don't know what's going to happen the next day, and you want your loved ones to go through that. So this lockdown is difficult for everybody, but it is so important that everybody, we get through this as a country, as a community, as families, as neighbours, that we support each other and we talk to each other. The technology that's there is great. It is keeping us connected. So even when myself and Brenda are in hospital, we're able to have video calls each day to each other and to the kids at home. I was still able to virtually took Grace into bed every night. We do a FaceTime call at her bedtime, so she'd call me. We'd call each other when she was getting into bed. I was able to wish her good night and read her a story or whatever it was. And so it felt like I was there. I was in touch as much as possible without the physical contact. So the technology can keep people talking to each other and keep people in touch with each other until such a time we are allowed to go meet each other again and meet up again as friends and families and neighbours and a community, and get back to going to football matches, matches, whatever it is. All these things that we miss, but we will get to eventually. And your
children, your 4 children, have Mammy and Daddy home.
Yes. That's it, and we're home with them. For us, that's just everything. That's our whole world. Like most parents, your kids are your world. We miss our extended family, our brothers or sisters, or our parents. Brenda's dad, I know he's isolated in town, and we miss him, and he misses us. But we talk to them every day. Brenda's aunt is the same, so we talk to them every day. My brother's in Dublin, and I talk to him every second day or every third day. So. We keep in contact the whole time. We miss everybody terribly, but we know when this is over, we'll have a great catch-up, and we'll have a great get-together when the time is right, but only when the time is right.
Barry, thank you. Well done. Mind yourself.
Thank you very much, Damien.
And Brenda, thank you so much. And to your children, God love them, and well done to all of you in extended family, okay?
Thanks, Damien. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Barry and Brenda Sorensen from Tramore, and Brenda has a lot of extended family in Waterford. Want to say hello to them this morning, to Jason and so many of the others. Very strong, powerful interview. The message is there, folks. The message is there. Now, in a minute, I'm going to talk to Ricky Ryan. Firstly, a few texts in. Ben texted in to wish Brenda and Barry well. I'm asthmatic all my life, says Ben. I'm 57. For someone to comprehend what that man had to go through, try breathing through a straw. This will give you some idea just how vulnerable you can feel. Damien, what a very sad and frightening story for the poor couple. Thank God they're on the mend. Let's hope people will heed what they say safe. And Joe was texted in to say, inspirational interview from Barry and Brenda. Well done to them getting through it, and to their children for being so brave. Joan phoned in to 051 846 123. Say it would really frighten you. Those who think it's a joke and that the virus isn't real should hear that story. Ricky, good morning.
Good morning, Damien. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Thanks for joining us. You were on the programme a number of times before. It's a topic we haven't yet covered, and we're just going to give it a mention this morning and maybe look at it again next week. You're a recovering addict. You know the experience that people suffer from addictions are going through, and it's an area where I presume is very, very difficult at present, addicts that are recovering at present. What sort of options are there for addicts?
Well, at the minute, the Drug Task Force have teamed up with service users, and I think they only launched it yesterday. So at the minute, if you go onto the South East Drug Task Force website, for anyone that's looking for it, they're running meetings type of thing online. So they're doing meditations. Anyone who needs to speak to a counsellor, things like that, Monday to Sunday, from 10 o'clock in the morning till 7:30 at night, they're running different courses. Now that's with both professionals and service users, so you're getting the lived experience as well of people. Then I suppose in Waterford, all the services in Waterford are still running, they're just not running from their offices. You can contact them through their phone number. The Frontline Project are on Facebook, and they're available for anyone to talk to. And I suppose as Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous are concerned, we had to move online to do all our meetings online for social distancing and things like that. Now it's all trial and error because we've never had meetings online before, but they're working fairly well.
Yeah, I know for some people that do AA meetings, I was talking to a chap over the weekend about this. Some of them are finding it very good because you can go online, go on to any meeting. You can be on a meeting in San Diego or in Sydney. You can be all over the world and you can be hosting these meetings as well. But for some people that just find it difficult, they need that human interaction with people. This idea of having, I suppose, a contact person, that can be quite difficult because there's no obviously human interaction with people at present. Yeah,
and I agree with that because to me, my recovery was based on meeting people, even if it wasn't to talk about recovery, about addiction. It's that human interaction. It's not the same, but I suppose we can only do what we can do with this at the moment.
So there are addicts out there of different addictions, whether it be alcohol, drugs, gambling, other things that are probably going through very difficult times at present, Ricky.
Oh, big time. And even for the people who aren't in recovery, this is probably a very dangerous time for them. To the extent of, it's very dangerous to come off alcohol. Now, I know the off-license are open, so maybe not so bad there, but drug addicts who are finding it hard to get certain drugs like benzos, heroin, or methadone, it's very dangerous to come off all them cold turkey. So while I agree that we need social distancing, I believe that the way things are going at the minute is working well. It is dangerous for that group of people. And I know that treatment centres, they are taking phone calls, but a lot of them are after shutting their doors because they can't be bringing it in to a house where they can infect others.
So, for example, if somebody was on a methadone system, going to a methadone clinic in Waterford or elsewhere, are they not getting the methadone now?
I think they are, but the problem with a lot of people that take methadone is just that they collect their methadone in St. Albans, and then a lot of them, no, not a lot of them, but a good few of them do end up taking heroin with it. So they're doubling the dose of opium that's gone into their system.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous. It's dangerous for the people that are doing that. The people who are taking the methadone as prescribed, they're all right, because they're getting it as they need it. But it's the ones who struggle to just stick to methadone. And it's the same with taking tablets like Valium, Xanax, anything like that. People who are taking them, if you're taking 20 tablets a day to go to nothing, that could shut down your whole system. You could have a fit and die from it. It's very dangerous in that aspect. And then where can you go? Because doctors, while I understand doctors are doing what they're doing and they have to do it, like, I'm not disagreeing with that. Like, where do they go? They can't go to the GP to even get a prescription of Valium or anything like that, because doctors don't really want to see people unless it's a genuine emergency. And I don't think that falls under an emergency in a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah, it doesn't. We're hopefully going to get somebody on from the drug task force later in the week, because you commented on the task force when they launched their document there a few months ago. Ricky, listen, mind yourself. You're keeping okay yourself?
Oh, yeah, just doing what I have to do.
Good.
Look, it was good actually listening to, is it Brenda? Is that her name? Like,
Brenda and Barry, yeah, just before us, yeah.
Yeah, she was just so positive about, like, just feeling the fresh air on your face. Like, and it's a positive attitude, and I think if everyone could take a leaf out of her book, we'd all be grand at the end of this. Very
well said. Ricky Ryan, take care, mind yourself, okay?
Lovely. Thanks, Damien.
Thank you very much. Ricky Ryan there, a recovering addict, and he's a guy we've had on a couple of times. I really value his opinion. He knows what's happening out on the streets, and we're going to have somebody on later in the week, hopefully from the Drug Task Force. Stay with us, 083 333 975. You can call 051 846 123. Brian texted in, the Sorensen family are inspirational to share their traumatic story in such circumstances. They deserve all our gratitude, and maybe now more people will take it serious. Patrick, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you getting on?
Good now, good.
Minister of State at the Department of Finance, Fine Gael TD, Patrick O'Donovan, thanks very much for joining us.
No problem.
Is the government going to have enough money? Will the state have enough money to pay for all this?
The short answer is yes. At the moment, the National Treasury Management Agency has told the government that they have about €8 billion cash in hand, and they expect to have €1 billion surplus by the end of the year. But the Exchequer figures for the first 3 months of the year are stark. There's no two ways about it. When you look at the figures, particularly in relation to the numbers of people that are now unemployed, we went from a situation where we had practically full employment in February to a situation where now upwards of over 500,000 people, and we'll have the full CSO figures shortly, are claiming a benefit of one kind or another, and we expect that it could reach 17 or 18%. So the numbers have rocketed, and behind those numbers there are families, individuals, who have in many cases worked in an ironclad type of environment and now find themselves unemployed. So it is very serious. The government estimate and the Department of Finance with the Central Bank estimate that this could cost anything upwards of €16 billion. Now, when you think that at the end of last year we had €1 billion of surplus, and this was something that was heralded to be now in a situation where we have an uncontrolled virus that has come into our shores, costing us anything upwards of 16 to 20 billion euros. These figures are massive, but the government has said, the cost, particularly of the emergency and in the areas of health and employment assistance, will be met by the government.
I understand that, and the cost, just to put it into perspective, we're talking approximately €2 billion a month in terms of health, and we're talking at present over a 3-month period. I was looking at the ESRI figures. We're looking at approximately $6 billion for the social welfare payments. These are phenomenal amount of figures, and these are the knowable costs. This is the thing
right.
If, for example, Patrick, the thing doesn't come back, the economy doesn't come back the way we want to see it coming back, is there a possibility that the government could be looking at maybe reducing social welfare payments, getting rid of the COVID payments, putting tax increases on public sector workers?
Well, I think the first thing to point out is that the Minister for Finance said last week after the Eurozone Finance Ministers meeting, and it's important that this is not an Irish issue alone, and we're not at any advantage or disadvantage to other European countries. The Eurozone ministers put aside €500 billion, that's €500 billion last week, to make available to countries, and this will be made available under 3 different headings: from the European Investment Bank, for the stabilisation mechanism, and directly to member states. And this will be low-cost finance over long periods of time, where governments will be able to draw down support. It'll also mean, from a European point of view, that a lot of the state aid rules, so governments being able to support businesses that are critical pieces of infrastructure and critical to government continuing to be able to provide services, that those rules in many cases now have been waived. So, from an Irish government point of view, we were fortunate to some degree in terms of the economics of this, that we have a very strong economy. Our economy is not based on any one particular building block. It's based on multiple ones: manufacturing, tourism, agriculture, med-tech, finance. So there's a lot of different services and a lot of different elements, including the public sector.
Yes.
Not like previously, where we had an economic bubble that was fueled on private debt, surrounded primarily through the property market. So this is entirely different, and the government has said to people that, at the moment, the government is carrying the bill for this.
So you are completely confident as the Minister of State, a minister in this government, that the government will have enough money and will have avenues to borrow. We'll have to pay this back. Obviously, this is going to cost us a lot of money over the years, but you're saying the money is there and the sources of more money are there too.
Damien, the reality is that the budgets that are going to be done from now on are going to be totally different to any budget that was laid out in any particular party's manifesto. I mean, we have now seen a situation where we have a government surplus to massive deficits, and they're going to have to be managed, and public expenditure is going to have to be managed. But in the short term, and we've laid it out in the short term, and it's a 12-week short term, the government has said in relation to the investment that's required in health and particularly income supports, that we're prepared and we have the finances to carry the bill for that. We also have, as a result of the economic decisions that we took over the previous 9 years, a lot of which was criticised by the opposition, we have a situation where now we're trusted. We have a good rating, we can borrow internationally, and the NTMA have cash. So we're in a position where families, and there's a lot of people in Waterford that have been bereaved as well, and I'm very conscious of the fact that there's 365 people now who have passed away.
Yes. And
I've seen the effects of it in terms of how people have been bereaved, and over 10,000 people infected with it. These are massive numbers, and at the moment they don't show any sign of abating or reducing, and that's the government's priority at the moment, is to stick to the public health element of this.
Yes. How do you feel about going into a coalition with Fianna Fáil?
Well, the last time I was on with you, it was everybody else's problem bar everybody else's. We had a situation the last time I was speaking to you where the people who essentially won the election...
but that's the last time. Tell us about it now. How do you feel about going into a coalition with Fianna Fáil?
Well, we're in a totally different Ireland to the last time I spoke to you, and we're not going to walk away from our responsibilities, unlike parties that got the largest number of seats and votes. And it's the right thing to do to form a government. And anybody that
but you wouldn't talk to Sinn Féin.
No, we won't, and neither will Fianna Fáil, and for very obvious reasons that they don't need to be rehashed. But there are TDs all over the country that are going to have a long look in the mirror now and say to themselves, am I going to support a government in the national interest, or am I going to sit in the fence? And they're in every constituency in the country, including your own, and they're going to have to, at the end of the day, decide who they're and what they're going to vote for. And I don't think there'll be any hiding place in this stall like there was in the last stall, particularly for independents.
So is this just a marriage of inconvenience, just to keep Sinn Féin out of it?
No, this is the right thing to do for the country. And the previous part of our conversation said about, the numbers of people who have lost their lives, numbers of people who have been bereaved, the numbers of people who have lost their jobs, who have seen their businesses go, who won't recover. Those people will not tolerate, and I think they're right to see a situation where there's procrastination for much longer. We need a government, and we need a government soon. We came third in what was a three-way tie. We said at the start that we didn't win the election, and we were prepared to let those people who won the election get on with it. They didn't. We're going to stand by the Republic, and we're going to stand by the country as we've always done, and we're going to lead the formation of a government, and it's up to other parties and individuals, particularly independents, to get off the fence and say we're going to do what's right by the country.
Yeah, but Sinn Féin weren't able to form a coalition effectively.
They didn't try, Damien.
Well, they tried hard, they said. They tried hard, and you wouldn't talk to them, even though you finished third. You're now going to be leading the government.
They didn't try. They came out within 48 hours, as they always did, threw their hands up in the air and said, we can't do it. They don't want to be in government. And we've said from the start we wouldn't share government with them.
They did. They wanted to be in government. They said they wanted to be in government. They did. They said they did.
Damien.
That's disingenuous now, Minister. They said they did.
If you look at their track record in Northern Ireland, where only when they were forced into doing so by the risk of violence re-emerging, They spent 2 years making sure there would be no government in the north. They've absented themselves from decision making in Westminster, which we knew was very critical at the time of the Brexit.
Well, we don't go over that now, but they did go into government in the north, and they've held the government together up there.
When they were pushed by public opinion in the aftermath of the horrific killing of the journalist in Derry, which we all know about, that was their reason, that was their impetus, because they knew that there was a public tide against them. We said from the outset that apart from their history and everything like that, and their singing and chanting in the immediate aftermath of the election, like ooh, up the ra from one of your own local deputies, outside of all of that, their economic policies are not consistent with people who are trying to put a country back together.
Well,
and we've said that from the outset. Their economic policies, particularly now, where people that are listening to this in Waterford have seen their jobs go, the last thing you need at the moment is any kind of voodoo economics to try and shake the magic tree where money would fall out of it. The people are beyond that now, and they know that that's not the case. And they want to have the country put back on a stable footing, and they know that there's only one realistic proposal. And to those independents who think that they're going to be able to hide, they won't be able to. And the people in Waterford and the people in every other constituency that have elected people like this are expecting them now to live up to their obligations, which is to protect the people and get on and make sure that the economy can be rebuilt.
Minister Patrick O'Donovan, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Thank you.
Thanks,
take care. And we will have somebody from Sinn Féin on to rebuke those points in the next few days. Stay with us.